So this is GCSE Edexcel Business, topic 1.1, spotting the business opportunity, and this particular video is options for starting a business, which is the last topic in in topic 1.1. The videos, as always, I'm going to talk reasonably quickly. What you really need to be doing is building up those revision notes as you're watching the video, checking out GCSE Bite Size for more ideas. Tutor to Use, a really good place too. So use the video, make some revision notes, and really think around the topic area, because it's when you're thinking about it that you're really going to learn the most. Just sitting here watching the video will help, but it won't help as much as you need to be able to pass the exam. Business ownership. So I asked the people within my class what are the advantages and disadvantages of setting up a business, and this is a list that one of the classes came up with. So if you just have a quick look at this, pause this and have a quick read of this list. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantages of setting up a business. I agree with the things that are on this list. And so one of the ways that we can overcome or consider trying to reduce some of these advantages or disadvantages is think about setting up a franchise. So there's three key words that we need to know here. So franchise is the right by one business given to another to sell goods or services using their name. A franchisee is the business that agrees to manufacture, distribute or provide a branded product under license. So the franchisee is somebody who buys a franchise, and the franchisor is the person who sells the idea in the first place, okay, in return for some money. Now, if you consider a franchise as a business in a box, so you want to set up a business, a franchise is a particularly easy way to do it, because you don't have to think about all the different ideas. There's an idea in a box and you just purchase it. So one of the most famous franchises of all times is McDonald's. So one of the things that you can buy from your if you want to set up a business, would be you could buy the brand name, you can buy the logo McDonald's, you can buy the idea, the kind of food that they sell, the menu, all that sort of stuff. You can just buy a business ready to go like McDonald's. Also, if you buy a McDonald's franchise, you'd also buy the training. So it might be that maybe you haven't necessarily got the skills to set up a business. So it might be not all like McDonald's, but it could be something like, if you wanted to go into food, they could give you the training to become better at managing a food restaurant. It could be if you're going to set up a tow bar business, that they could give you the skills on how to fit the tow bars. There's lots of different franchises, and they can give you the skills to be able to do it, the training that you might not have otherwise. So they can also maybe provide you with equipment. McDonald's is a fantastic example, because a lot of the equipment that you use in the McDonald's store nowadays was designed specifically for that business. So if you were going to set up another fast food joint, you wouldn't get the chip putter inner. You'd have to come up with your own specific design. But if you were to buy a McDonald's franchise, you'd be able to buy all the equipment from them. They'd have all exactly the right stuff that you'd need. They know what you would need, so you wouldn't end up buying equipment that you didn't need. So it's just, again, this idea of it just all coming out really easy from that business box. Don't need to worry about where you're going to get stuff from. If you set up a McDonald's franchise, then all of your supplies, the bread buns, the milkshakes, everything is all provided by McDonald's, the head office, as it were. So you don't have to worry about where stuff's going to come from, trying to find the best deals. It all comes from that McDonald's head office. Also, big thing for franchises, advertising. So if you buy a franchise, the likelihood is that the advertising will all be paid for, will be organised, will be run by the franchise. So you don't have to worry about trying to think about catchy adverts for your business. It will all be done by a business that's got more experience than you, and by maybe a dedicated marketing team who'll come up with all these fantastic ideas to make sure that your business and the franchise or business is well known. But okay, so you get all these fantastic advantages from becoming a franchise, and it makes it much easier to set up than a normal business. But why? And the thing we've got to consider is it's all about the money. Okay, you can buy a McDonald's franchise, but as a minimum, it's going to be looking at £250,000-300,000 just for the idea, not the building that you're going to put the franchise in. So that franchise fee up front to buy the idea, buy that business idea in that box, you're going to have to pay for that. Other franchises will be much lower, might be a few £1,000s up to, serious amounts of money for McDonald's and Clark's and other big franchises like that. Also, the franchisor is going to expect you to pay them money every single year as well. Now, depending on how successful you are, so if you are running McDonald's and it's particularly successful, out of the profits that you make each year, a percentage of that will go to the franchisor, and in many cases that will pay for the advertising, it'll pay for other things as well. So you are getting something in return, but every year you'll have to pay that royalty fee. So again, another key word there, royalties. So if we have a look at our list of business ownership and we're thinking about advantages and disadvantages of business ownership, and particularly the disadvantages, the ones that have just come up red now are ones which actually sort of disappear if you set up a franchise. So finding customers, I should say, rather than customers, so finding customers could be really stressful. Well, actually it stops being so stressful if you know that you're part of a bigger brand, if you know that the advertising's being done for you, then that actually might reduce that stress. Risky, well, significant proportion of businesses, somewhere, depending on what report you read, of about more than 50% of businesses will fail within 5 years of setting up. So in terms of the risk, actually franchises, setting up a franchise comes down, it's depending on what you read, lower than 10% normally will fail, because the idea has already been tried out. So the customers have already decided that this is a good idea for them. So it's a much less risky option than trying to set up on your own. Stressful. So setting up on your own can be really stressful because it's just you. But if you set up as a franchise, it isn't just you. The franchisor hopefully will have made loads of efforts to pick exactly the right people, and you're one of those people, and therefore you're not just on your own. If you've got any problems, you phone up one of the other franchisees, or you phone up the franchisor and say, give us some advice, how do I deal with this? And so it's not just about you against the world, it's, you're part of a bigger organisation. If you don't have the knowledge or skills, they can provide the training. Finding suppliers disappears because it's done through your franchisor, and as I said, the chance of failing can be reduced quite significantly. If we look at some of the advantages, though, some of the advantages of setting up on your own, well, the profit's all yours, but it's not if you're a franchisee. You have to give some of that profit away. Decision making: if McDonald's decides to change the uniform for its staff, you've got no choice, you change the uniform. If McDonald's starts to change the menu, then your menu changes. So in many respects you don't necessarily get as much decision making as independently as you would like. Choosing your own hours wouldn't matter either way. No boss. Okay, so you're still your own boss if you're a franchisee, but actually there's another organisation, that franchisor, who can impose some rules and regulations, so you're not 100% your own boss. If you set up a franchise, you'd still get to pick your employees, you might still become famous, but less likely. And so some of those advantages start to maybe disappear as well. So you might reduce the disadvantages, but some of those advantages that may be the reason that people went into business for don't necessarily exist anymore. So the advantages of setting up a franchise, just thinking about them, so on the right hand side we've got Clark's, really famous franchise, but not a lot of people know that Clark's is actually a franchise. Domino's Pizza will be a franchise too. Phone Doctor, so these are smaller franchises. So Phone Doctor is one that fixes screens on mobile phones and stuff. Chips Away is one that looks at cars and sorts out little paint mark blemishes on cars. So these are franchises that potentially you could buy into after you've left school. So the advantage of setting up a franchise is it's still your own business. As we've said, you're not necessarily going to have 100% control. Decisions might be made, which you just have to follow, but it is your own business. Some of the questions students asked me in class the other week was, can you sell it? Well, actually, no. Although it's your own business, you will normally be tied into some sort of deal with the franchisor, which says that you will not sell the business without their approval, because they take to a lot of effort to select you, so they don't want you just selling that to anyone else. So you need to, that will be written into your franchise agreement. Tested and developed format and established brands is a massive advantage. It's already been tried, tested, and therefore it should work quite well. You get support, advice. It's easier to raise finance. If you go to the bank and turn around and say, I'm going to set up a pizza joint, they go, okay. But if you turn around and say, I'm going to set up a Domino's pizza joint, it's much more likely that they're going to be prepared to lend you money because they know it's more likely to be a success. If you said, I'm going to set up a shoe shop compared to I'm going to set up a Clark shoe shop, the bank is much more likely to give you the money. You don't necessarily have to have industry experience. So even if you want to set up a Clark store, it might not be that actually you need to have sold shoes before. It's having the capital to be able to set up the store, maybe the right set of skills that Clark's is after. So you don't necessarily need to have been a shoe shop owner or worked in the industry to actually set up that sort of franchise. And as we've said, it's a lower risk, much lower risk. So they're the key big advantages of setting up a franchise. Now, if we just skip on, finally, location factors, and this is my last slide. So in terms of options for setting up a business, one of the options that you've got is where do you set that business up as well. So if we were considering Pudsey Leisure Centre or the Pudsey area, and we were thinking about B&M, so this is what we've done in class before, and we've talked about this one. So what are the reasons that B&M sets up where it is? Well, it'll be set up because it's thinking about, well, are my competitors near me or not? So whenever a business is setting up, it wants to know who are the local competitors. Some businesses, if you think again of somewhere like the White Rose Centre, closed shops, they all want to be next to each other. They just want lots and lots of people to be coming. So they want the customers, the access to customers. So they'll sacrifice being next to other stores, knowing that somebody might go into their shop rather than theirs. And the trade-off that they get in return is that by putting themselves next to each other, they get loads more customers who turn up at that location, so their sales will increase overall. But other businesses try and put themselves as far away from the competitors as possible. Transport. So whichever business you are, you need to think about, how are my customers, how are my employees going to get to me? Is there a bus station? Is there rail? Is there a car network? Is it easy to walk? So how can things get transported to you? This then sort of rolls into that access to suppliers. Are you on a main road? Do you need HGV deliveries? Is it going to be a small van delivering to you? Are you in the middle of the countryside? Can you get the supplies that you need when you need them? So where are you going to locate your business based upon what sort of supplies do you need? Also, access to customers. So if we're going to set up in the middle of a town like Pudsey, then we know we've got great access to customers. If we're near to a school, in this case we're near to a couple of schools, we know we're going to get customers from the local area who's going to come into our shop, so that's going to be brilliant for us. And then we need to think about, well, how much will it cost to set our business up in our given location? So do we want to set up in the centre of town where it's going to be really, really expensive? Further out of town that we go, the cheaper it might well become. And so these sort of rent costs will be a factor for us. How much are we going to sell our products for? Can we add value by being in the centre of town? So thinking about those other phrases. If we're in the centre of town, can we charge more? If we're in a much more expensive location rent-wise, does that improve our brand image? Does it improve our brand, and therefore do we add value that way and allow our customers, or are our customers prepared then to pay a bit more? So GCSE business is all about looking for lists. So location factors, kinds of things that they would ask you in an exam are, thinking about those factors of location. What's the most likely reason for a business setting up somewhere, and you'd need to know these and can know what they are. So that's a whistle-stop tour of franchises and those location factors that you need to know. As I say, make some revision notes, watch the video again, maybe do a bit more reading, think about it, check out some past papers online. And if you've got any questions, then next time you're in school, just give me a shout.